It seems to me that creativity has to make room for failure. So do you agree with that, first of all, Glenn? And then how do you foster that, not only in yourself, but in everybody that works with you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree 100%. It has to have room for failure, and also even I think you have to look at what do you mean by the word failure. So for example, like, well, in fine art and painting, what someone might call a failure might actually be a stepping stone to some, like a whole new art form or a style or something. So it's really to not worry about necessarily caring that this product is super good on every one, but just that freedom to create in kind of a wild way, and then say, out of that, yes, there's going to be culling, there's going to be refining and things that happen down the road, but you're totally open to the idea that it could be a disaster. So, and so sometimes for my drawings, I'll make, like, if I wanted to draw a bird, for example, I might say, okay, I might get out 20 pieces of paper and try all 20 kind of at once, and then pick out of that, I might pick one that I think is going in the best way. So it's not necessarily, and the other ones might be called a failure, but it's just part of the process. And I think in a business context, that means like having that freedom to allow failure as part of the experimenting, right? So like at Spark, if we're designing something, like designing a product, we might say, okay, let's throw all the ideas on the table. Let's all look at them. We'll critique them together. But we're not just saying, okay, that's a failure. We look at it in a more, I guess, sophisticated way, where you'd be saying, okay, this one has pros and cons. This one has this advantage. Kind of, you're looking at the options.
Yeah, Sarah.
I would say, how you define failure is a good question, because the hardest thing is starting. So if you allow the first things you create to be a failure, it's easier to start. And that's some of the best design advice I ever got, was the first ideas are always shitty, but you have to put them down to get them out of your head. So if you're designing something and the shittiest idea you can think of is an elephant or something, if you don't put it down on the paper, it's just gonna be like elephant, 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 elephant. And then it's gonna stick with you. So you have to get it down and be like, oh, that's so shitty, but I've started. Right. And I think that's the hardest thing with creativity, but also business. Any sort of thing that you do, people are always like, oh, how did you do this, or how did you start? And I think if there's one thing I'm good at, it's just doing it, like spinning it out before it's ready, and just letting it live and start, and not trying to make it perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Stephen King is some would say, successful writer, marginally prolific. And he has a routine where he gets up in the morning every day and writes for 4 hours. And he has said, if you've ever read his book on writing, it's not just about writing, it's about the whole creative process. Some mornings he'll write 4 hours of crap, 4 solid hours that will get thrown out. As soon as that 4-hour bell goes off, he deletes the whole thing. It's just garbage. But he knows the good stuff is behind that. So he has to get through the garbage to get to the good. And that's why, yeah, it's about how you define failure. If you're trying to do it right the first time, you're screwed. If you're trying to get to where you have to go, the hits, misses, failures, mess, and crap that you come up with is, yeah, part of that process. Because your gems, your successes are hiding behind all this stuff.